Hey everybody, Josh here, back for another Monday interview. In case you haven't heard, for almost 2 years now, The Onion has been attempting to win control of the brand Infowars away from conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, who lost the legal rights to the entity as a result of numerous legal judgments, finding him liable for libeling the family members of children killed in the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. However, thanks to a series of higher court judgments, the Infowars name remains in legal limbo. This month, The Onion pushed ahead anyway, relaunching Infowars as part of a broader strategy to pressure the courts into unblocking the deal. Last week, I sat down with Ben Collins, the CEO of The Onion, to walk me through the entire history of their effort to acquire Infowars, the legal roadblocks that have come in their way, and the longer-term plans to build a comedy network using the brand as a flagship logo. Also, just as an FYI, at one point in the interview, Ben's audio shifts from a local track recorded on his computer to a cloud backup that I pulled off of our call. So if you notice a shift in his audio, that's what's going on there. Anyway, hope you enjoy. I am thrilled to have somebody who I've wanted to talk to on the show for quite a while. You may know him from his other name, I believe his now retired name, Tim Onion.
Yes, he's been killed.
He's been killed, much like the Infowars elf. We hope to never hear from him again. Ben Collins, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for giving a shit about this.
Of course. So the reason that I've been really excited to talk with you is that over the course of the past couple years, The Onion has been doing stuff in new media that has been unlike what most other people are doing. And you've gone on a number of other shows to sort of talk about that from a strategy perspective, how people want print, they want something they can hold in their hands. They don't want to worry about like all of the different things that are being fed to them by a series of algorithms. They want a solid, consistent product. And the new vertical that you are now, of course, in the process of rolling out and have been over the course of the past like week or two is Real Infowars, which is actual, honest-to-goodness Infowars, right?
Yeah, the logo's gayer, but everything else is the same, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was actually at the original launch party for that. I got one of those gay tote bags, which was very exciting for me. What I would like to do today is walk through the entire history of how we got to this point, because things are sort of in some ways a bit of a holding pattern on the legal side of things, where the courts continue to stall the closure of this deal, which has been done. I didn't realize that. It's fully executed. It's just waiting on full court sign off, right? Yeah,
we have signed paperwork with the guy in charge of the estate who reports the families. It's just that at every step of the way here, Alex has found a way to get somebody to step in at courts with some invisible hand at every step. So we're waiting for the very last piece of paperwork to go through, and we have no idea when that will be.
I've been following this case for a while. I know a lot of people have been following this case for a while. And one of the things that's been shocking about it is the way that the can keeps getting kicked down the road.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pieces to this story that I think are somewhat clear if you've been following at a distance, but maybe not entirely clear. And so what I was hoping we could do today is walk through the entire history of what has been going on with Infowars, including obviously the way that it came into contact with The Onion, the attempted takeover, and everything that has come downstream of that. And then I'm hoping that we can get the opportunity to talk a little bit more just about media narratives, the way that they work, and what you are trying to do with The Onion and Infowars to sort of chart a new course for the future.
Absolutely. I would love to do that. And also, I think a good distillation of what's going on is I was going back through my files on this. And a year ago, a Texas judge who has been trying to get this over the finish line for years now said, I'm starting to worry that justice delayed might be justice denied here. And that was 13 months ago. So this has been going on for, 10 years since the start of this case and 5 years since these families got this judgment. And it's still, we're just waiting for years. They've been waiting on that one last piece of paperwork. And it's just 2 weeks away in perpetuity.
Well, let's talk about, because really where this started is not even 10 years ago. It's almost 14 years ago now, in December of 2012, where a 20-year-old named Adam Lanza shoots his mother dead with a bolt-action rifle and then brings a semi-automatic rifle to Sandy Hook Elementary School in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. He kills 20 first-grade children and 6 adults and then shoots himself. marking the conclusion to the second deadliest school shooting in American history. And subsequent to that, of course, Alex Jones begins to go on his media outlets, including Infowars, and claim that nobody died. And what actually happened was that everybody who was claiming that they died, as well as the actual documented footage of what had happened, that all of those people are crisis actors. They're all lying. It's all bullshit. And Ben, you were still working in journalism at this time, right?
Back then, it was probably before that. It was 2012, wow. So I was, kind of fresh out of college at that point.
Okay.
So it's been, my entire adult life has been, in your adult life, everybody's adult life that's our age, right? Has just been dealing with the concept that we could just die at any moment in the most horrific, like, gun violence escapade that exists, including our kids who, in this case, were locked in a closet and blown to pieces. And then literally hours after the police got there, Alex Jones just denied that they were even real people. So it's been our whole lives.
Yeah, just reality fracturing in front of us. And I feel like, too, part of what happens here is that there are a lot of people who just aren't willing or able to face up to that fundamental reality. And so they start creating an alternate narrative and an alternate media ecosystem that reflects their delusions, essentially.
The thing that I'm starting to realize is that the last 10 years, part of why nothing can change for the better is because of this stuff. The fact that anytime something bad happens in the world of right-wing media, which is completely consumed all three branches of government, they just deny it took place.
Yeah.
So there's no problem with school shootings in this country if they're not really happening. And those are the people that run the country. So that's really how we ended up here, is just constant denial, deflection, delusion.
And in an attempt to win some modicum of justice, in April and May of 2018, so 5.5 years later, some of these people, the actual families of the victims who were slandered by Jones, file lawsuits against him, against Infowars, and his other media properties. This is actually two separate suits. One of them is in the state of Texas. The other is in the state of Connecticut. And the substance of the claim is not just that their character was directly defamed, although it is that. It's also that, and again, I think this is something that a lot of people maybe miss, that the ongoing coverage between 2012 to 2017 resulted in a lot of other people harassing them directly. Like, a lot.
Yeah, people had to move. People had to get out of their town. Alex actually sent some people to every Sandy Hook school board meeting. Again, this was a school that had to be demolished because of what happened in the school itself. It was that much of a cursed nightmare place from then on. And what the town was haunted by Infowars for years, just saying, like, prove that your kid existed. One of the people who followed Infowars tried to, told the parents, I need you to exhume your kid's body to prove to me that that they were real to begin with. They never stopped. Alex just started it immediately, and he literally sent people up there and profited off it. So, a story that I find kind of revealing is that I talked to Robbie Parker, who was the maybe primary target of Alex's bullshit, because he was the only guy the day of the shooting, the only parent who would talk. He had to move. He had to move from Connecticut, and he's a NICU nurse, like a very like one of the most wholesome professions you can have. And this guy lost the ability to speak publicly. Like, his ability to speak in crowds of people was lost. So in this case, Alex created sort of a zero-sum game for these parents. Either they get to live a normal life or he gets to be rich. And, I think that the first one is the thing that the courts decided should happen.
Yeah. And the first settlement that they reached, well, not a settlement, sorry, a judgment that they reached was in August 2022. And I believe that was for Robbie, maybe, or was that for somebody else? Because this was the $4 million judgment.
Yeah, it's a smaller judgment. It's from the Texas families that wound up being about $50 million over time. But it was the first one, and those two families sued in the state of Texas, which is a much harder road to hoe, obviously.
Right.
But in an Austin court, Alex Jones was found guilty.
Right. And the juries were happy to award quite a bit of money. It was $4 million in compensatory damages, but also $45 million in punitive damages. Because, again, it's that their character was directly defamed and people were sent after them.
That's exactly right. And they were, again, I want to stress, Alex is such a menace to even his local community that they were just, he didn't participate in this trial at all. He didn't go through discovery. He took it like a joke during this specific trial, the Texas trial. He would say he was sick and then go, so he didn't have to show up to trial, and then go on air and show pictures of the judge with flames around her face. Like, it was a ridiculous posture to take for somebody who was going to lose this much money.
And I mean, that money, the money from the August case, is peanuts compared to what was coming next, because in October 2022, a Connecticut jury finds Joan liable for $965 million in compensatory damages. And in November 2022, a judge tacks on an additional $473 million in punitive damages, totaling about $1.5 billion. And obviously, Alex Jones doesn't have $1.5 billion. He never will. And so he files for bankruptcy.
Yeah. He was rich, by the way. He had hundreds of millions of dollars, and they were from his supplement empire, which literally subsisted on fear of mass shootings and things like that. You could tell researchers tracked coverage of false flags, in his words, to supplement sales. There's a big reason why that judgment was so big. But it was also, he took in all this other money from all sorts of other places. He used to accept, he had a big Bitcoin button on the Infowars.com website for a long time. So, it was a ton of money. But he obviously didn't have $1.5 billion. He had hundreds of millions, and he needed to file for bankruptcy.
Well, because the purpose of the judgment was not to ever get these families $1.5 billion. It was to get them decent money and ruin Alex Jones's life. That was the point of that judgment.
Yeah, they wanted him to not use that weapon that he developed on other families throughout the country.
Because they knew he would do it again.
Yeah. In talking to them, it's clear, like, everybody understands that this guy is one way or another going to be a public figure who, rides around in his tank and, like, finds a way around it. But they just wanted it to be harder for him to make money slandering random civilians in this country that has become increasingly more fucked up about this specific thing. So to that effect, that judgment should have, and hopefully will continue to, if we have anything to do with it, be able to affect that change.
At this point, Jones begins to appeal the case, and eventually he's going to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they're going to decline to hear it. So that is what he's trying to do on his end. I am curious at this point. Again, we are in fall of 2022, and at this point, you are still working in journalism, right?
Yes, I am.
And are you tracking this stuff as part of your professional practice?
Yeah, of course. And I was like on air, I think, on NBC when the first judgments came through.
Oh, wow.
And I remember watching him, and he said, do these families really think I'm going to pay a cent of this? He would say that on the air at the time. He's like, I'm not going to do any of this. And I was like, at the time, I was like, I think you have to do that. I don't know how this works. I don't know anything about
I'm pretty sure it's the law.
I think you have to do this. But little did I know that there were many machinations for people who really don't want to pay judgments like this to never do it. So I was paying attention to it in the background. And also, 2 years before that, right? He was at January 6th. He is the tip of the sphere for all of these things. Now he's hanging out with Nick Fuentes, and he has this magnetism, like crank magnetism, I think is what they call it, right? Where they just all pound together, but he's the fridge of crank magnetism, right?
Yeah. He's also shaped like a fridge, which helps.
Exactly right. So I was absolutely like keeping an eye on him, but like I had, in a couple of years, I would get a new job where I didn't think I would have to think about these people ever again.
Right. Disinformation was your beat, right?
Yeah.
That was the big thing that you were doing during your time at NBC?
Yeah, it was disinformation and extremism, which at the time of the internet, there was a lot of people doubting if those things were real, which was a massive campaign from the Republicans to get people to stop paying attention to them, basically. And it worked. Like they got everybody with my job out of a job very quickly. So nice job.
Right.
Nice job, GOP.
I guess that's the question, right? Like, what did you learn about the way that these things operate, like on a purely mechanistic level during your time as a reporter on the ground? Also sort of like at the end of legacy media as we know it.
Yeah. I realized they were going to win that fight, or at least that battle, maybe a year before my contract ended. Elon Musk got me suspended from my job at NBC for reporting on him. And then a couple weeks after that happened, our ad sales lady became the CEO of Twitter. It was the most like comically inept, corrupt thing I've ever seen in my life.
Of course.
And that's when I realized, like, Lydia Yacarino was her name, by the way.
Yeah.
One of the greatest tweeters of all time, by the way. She was a great poster.
Her posts are so
Just
funny.
the hot dog post, everything about it. She's great. She's off doing something else now, probably something very bad. Who knows? But like, I knew that was, that was the end of it. All of my friends were getting laid off.
Yeah.
My contract was just a year longer than everybody else. Everybody else was at-will employees. So like, I just hung around longer because Republicans were going to, one-to-one saying like, if you're a disinformation reporter, you're not, there's no such thing. Lying isn't real. Like there's no such thing as objective reality, basically. And a lot of news organizations fell for that. And basically my entire profession got wiped out in a year and a half.
I mean, you mentioned January 6th. The speed at which they were able to turn the narrative around about January 6th, I still think is one of the most startling propaganda coups that has ever been achieved.
Yeah. I mean, like even now, so think about this. All that Republicans know is that they're not at fault for that. But they are not clear about what they did that day, right?
Yeah, or what the thing even was to begin with. Yeah.
Are they proud of it? Did they get duped into doing it by the FBI? Were they even there to begin with? Was it Antifa? Like, it couldn't have been Antifa because they're happy it happened, but they're upset that they're being blamed for it. They literally don't know how to talk about it, but that's the world of like just constantly covering everything in this like shroud of nothing is real is what allowed them to not just get away with it, but almost get paid for it. They almost got paid to do January 6th, these people. So it's just it's a rotten time. And that was my job. I got an Emmy because on January 5th, a bunch of like moderate outgoing Republican Congresspeople called me and they said, "Oh, I'm pretty sure they're going to attack the Capitol tomorrow, and the DC police don't seem to give a shit." And I was like, if you're calling me, then you have real fucking problems. But I posted about it. I was like, people are expecting this thing to go down tomorrow, and nobody else really did. And it was one of those things where if you were reporting objective reality, you were in the crosshairs.
So when did you end your job with NBC? So
I ended my job in, I guess it was December of 2.5 years ago. So that was 2023. Is that right? 2022?
Okay.
Is that right?
That's perfect timing. That would be December 2023, which is perfect timing for what happens next.
Yes.
Because in January 2024, Jeff Lawson, who is the co-founder and former CEO now, of a company called Twilio, which is a cloud communications company, he leaves the company. And by virtue of having co-founded a very successful cloud communications company, he has a lot of walking around money, and he is looking for a new project. And in April of 2024, he acquires The Onion. Yeah. The Onion at this point is owned by a company called GO Media, which is probably one of the worst things that has ever happened to new media, I think, is GO Media, genuinely. For those not familiar, just look up a man named Jim Spanfeller and go from there. You'll have a lot of fun stuff to read about. But what Jeff does is he reincorporates all of the operations of The Onion under a new company, which is called Global Tetrahedron, which is actually a reference to an Onion bit. Yes. And he names you, Ben Collins, the CEO of this new entity.
Yeah. Basically what happened there is, I'd quit my job. I was writing a book about Hunter Biden. It was so complicated, but it was about
You're finally going to get to the bottom of what was on that laptop?
Yeah, kind of. That's what it was about. Anyways, I was just like, this is exhausting and I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. And I saw that The Onion was for sale. And I literally went on Blue Sky. I said, who wants to buy The Onion? I have $600, which is about the amount of money that I had at the time. And I started collecting with my friend Leela Burleson and Daniel Sterlet. Like, we tried to find investors. We tried to find all these things. And then we collected a little bit of money here and there. And The Onion was not worth a lot of money when we bought it. It was like a tiny little thing that we bought mostly to take on the lease of the building. Like, it was not an expensive endeavor for a rich guy. So we got in touch with Jeff, who was trying to buy it, but he had never owned a media company before. And we were like, we will run this place. We know how to do it. We even know how to make a newspaper. So can we help? And that's basically what happened. We combined forces and we took this thing over within 2 months of me posting that on Blue Sky.
Who says posting can't achieve anything?
Yeah, it's
true.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing to say. So when you were sort of setting up the original plans for what you wanted to do with The Onion, I'm assuming you all had talks about this. You had talks about it with Jeff. What was the initial core idea? Was bringing back the paper a big part of it first thing? Where did those conversations lead?
It was that primarily.
Okay.
The number one thing we wanted to do is because the site was covered in like boner pill ads. It was just covered in slop, basically.
Doctors hate
and
this,
that's how they made doctors hate this stuff. Yeah. That was 75% of their income. And it wasn't a lot of income. And we were just like, there's got to be a better way to make a business. And we thought if we had enough people buy the newspaper, we would easily be able to make more money than that, which is true. Like so it's been 2.5 years. We make, I don't know, 10x or something just from newspaper sales to what the programmatic advertising bullshit was from then. So we were like, we can, what if we just leaned into doing things the right way?
Yeah.
What if we made a newspaper people wanted to buy? What if we got slop ads off our website?
A product that people purchase in this economy? I don't know about that.
It's crazy. We were just like, what if we did that? And I think like a lot of people assumed that I was doing some like anti-technological, anti-AI play, like, we're going analog or something. I wasn't. The Onion is just a better thing in paper. And I thought that enough people would pay to get a nice thing in their mailbox, and they did. Part of that, though, is like if you're going analog and you're getting a closed ecosystem, you need to have a bigger fire hose. So we reinvested in the Onion News Network, our video wing, and that's been awesome. And our website's beautiful and incredible, and that's where you should read copy. But like, if you don't click a link for us, it's not the end of the world. Like if you see us in the world, if you see us on Instagram, if you see us on on the street, because we wheat paste stuff now, that's half the battle for us. We just want you to know we exist and that we're very funny, and we're funnier than we were before. So that was our whole game plan, and it worked out really well.
The visibility is really just the top of the funnel. The idea is that people become aware of the brand, and then they start to enjoy that stuff enough that they are willing to pay for a subscription, basically.
Yeah, like, you know this, but we've been living in like extraordinarily extractive times where everyone's like, oh, you read 2 free articles, you little bitch? Mm-hmm. You want to read the 3rd fucking article? You want to do that? Give me $45. Give me $45 for that one article. Thank you. We're the Deseret Sun Times or something.
We're the Deseret News. We are the Financial Times. I mean, honestly, Financial Times kind of worth it for that caliber of journalism. But yes, it is frustrating.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I worked in newsrooms, and everyone had always been like, why do we do it this way? This is awful. Mm-hmm. And I was just, we had the ability, we had some runway to try it differently, and it has so far worked.
So I want to jump now back to the Infowars side of things, now that we've heard kind of how you came into the picture here. Not quite fully yet. That will happen in a little bit. In June 2024, a federal bankruptcy court in Houston rules that all of Jones' personal assets, all of them, need to be liquidated immediately.
Yep.
He is not paying anything toward debts owed. And by the way, he still hasn't. And I think that's really important to note at this point. He still has yet to pay a red cent, which incredibly puts him even behind Donald Trump. I don't know if you saw, he actually just paid Jean Carroll the other day.
Yeah, he did. There are stark similarities between the E. Jean Carroll thing and this one. For example, Trump tried to, as a last gasp thing, say, oh, I have a larger outstanding debt to E. Jean Carroll in a different case. I don't have to pay this $5 million until that larger thing has been settled.
Okay.
So Alex does the same exact thing where he plays this larger debt off this smaller one, so he never actually has to pay. It's a strategy in bankruptcy court when you're a piece of shit.
Because he's in a lot of debt to a lot of people.
Yes.
Obviously, there are the families. That's the single biggest debt, is this tremendous judgment. But there are also creditors. There's his landlord. There's like a lot of other people who he owes a lot of money. And so the idea here is that if all of these assets are promptly liquidated, including Free Speech Systems, the holding company for Infowars, getting all of those assets down to cash value is going to facilitate the transfer of that money. And so in October 2024, Free Speech Systems, which again is the LLC that owns everything to do with Infowars, the intellectual property, the production rights, the production library, the social media accounts, the customer list, all of that gets put up for bankruptcy auction. And the deadline to bid on this is November 8th. And there are two bids. The first is a stalking horse bids by Alex Jones Associates. I think it's his dad, right? It's something like that.
Yeah, it's one of his employees, his dad, and Roger Stone has claimed credit for it since then, but we didn't know that at the time.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then the other bid, of course, is Global Tetrahedron. And that bid is lower. It's $1.75 million to the $3.5 million that Jones Associates put in. But the families are on board with the Global Tetrahedron bid because, as a sweetener for that deal, they have said, we are willing to forego some of the immediate proceeds from this auction and give it back to the creditors because they just want this shit to go away, is my understanding.
That's correct. Yeah, their whole goal was, first of all, we were going to like part that stuff out later and give more to them. And we were also going to give advertising dollars and merch money from to them as well, which we, within the first 6 weeks of having this parody Infowars up, we've already made like net over $100,000. So we're going to give that to them. But like their whole plan was to make sure that, again, the weapon gets shut off and that he doesn't get to just use, like there's stuff in there, there's satellite equipment, there's stuff that would beam stuff to radio stations. And it was more than just shutting off a website to them. It was like shutting off his ability to have this much sway and say. And in hindsight as well, things like his Twitter and Facebook accounts, I think a lot of Alex Jones's juice came from that name, came from those usernames that were algorithmically goosed on places like Twitter. They wanted those things shut off.
That's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. Well, two things that I think a lot of people don't realize is, number one, the stuff that you're saying, that this isn't just about the brand of Infowars. It is about all of the equipment and also all of the logistical components that are to do with that. Like this is stuff that has real monetary value, and that there could be potential profits beyond just the value of the auction itself.
Yeah.
That once these things are sold, that is more money that can immediately go to the families. And obviously, that is not something that would be part of the Jones bid. They're not going to be selling any of that shit. They're going to keep selling supplements and brain pills.
Yeah, we have no use for whatever AM radio band that they have or whatever. Like we have no use for like 90% of the stuff in there. Like there were things like Smith machines and bicep curl machines and stuff in the asset list. And we were like, I am just not going to fly to Texas and keep this. Like we are going to auction this off to the highest bidder. And I'm sure people would pay for it because it's what a dumb thing to have in your house, right? Like Alex Jones's Smith machine. That would be very funny. We were very ready to do a secondary thing with that stuff and give all that money back to the families. And they were excited to do it too.
And I guess that was to the point of the second thing that I think people don't realize. There were only two bids.
There were only two bids.
It was it was either going to be one or the other. There was no other potential outcome here. And that is a big piece of the reason that the families, at least again, this is my understanding, got so on board with the Onion's bid, was that first and foremost, it means Jones doesn't get control of Infowars back, but secondarily, it makes them more whole in the long run as well.
Yes, exactly. And I another thing I want to say is I had a lot of thought about this. My girlfriend and I it was election day when we talked about it, because the auction itself was 9 days after the election. So we could have pulled our bid, we could have done different stuff with it. And I was like, I just don't think anybody else is going to bid on it. I think he's going to get away with it. And the reality is, had we not bid on it, and he was the only person to bid on it, he could have had it for like, I don't know, a buck. I don't know what he would have bid on it, right? We knew that no one else was going to do it because Alex's friend's the president. Donald Trump once said, I will never let you down to Alex Jones on his podcast back in like 2015 or 2016. And what you're walking into there is just, that you don't know what it's going to be, but you're going to walk into a bunch of intimidation from the government, a bunch of legal threats, and a bunch of bullshit. It's the start of something.
And the assets themselves are toxic too. I mean, like the brand Infowars is, or at least was, one of the most toxic brands in the world. The idea of taking it and doing something productive with it would require a really, really big brain.
Yeah, you had to, it really is only us that I could imagine having real utility for it. Now, like some other right-wing crank could buy it and like run a diminished version of it that didn't have to do with Alex, but that wouldn't happen. Realistically,
right.
They wanted it back so they could keep the name going. And they thought effectively in their heads, they were like, I can cut this $1.5 billion judgment down to $3 million. That's what they were thinking in their head. And I just didn't want that to happen. And like, again, there's so many, I keep saying this to people, but during fascism, everyone comes up to something that they can stop. And they either decide to stop the one problem that they can fix, or they go away from it and they're big old cowards. And I was like, this is going to be horrible, but I'm just going to confront this one thing I can confront.
So this is your fight song, your Take Back Your Life song?
My Take Back My Life song. Yes, exactly. I just loved her. I was with her.
Yeah. And by her, I mean Alex Jones.
Yeah.
So on November 14, 6 days after the auction bids are in, and obviously at this point, Global Tetrahedron has submitted its bid, there is a big announcement that goes out that Global Tetrahedron, The Onion, has acquired Infowars, and we are launching a new website in January. You've got an exclusive ad deal with Everytown for Gun Safety, where they're going to be taking some of the money that they've made through donations and putting it into ads on the new Infowars that, again, creates a new stream of money that can be kicked back to the families. Of course, Alex Jones' lawyers immediately file an appeal. They allege that the trustee for the assets colluded to sabotage the auction. And in December 2024, The Onion's bid is rejected on fiduciary and procedural grounds by Christopher Lopez, who is the federal judge who had initially approved the auction take place, thereby nullifying the auction. And then in February 2025, he rejects an order to hold a second auction. So now everything's just completely in limbo again.
Yeah. If you talk to a bankruptcy lawyer on this, and we've talked to a bunch of them, they've never seen anything like it before. And it's, I think everyone thinks that there was just intimidation. He didn't want to sign off on the thing because he was afraid of it. And I don't blame him. Like, it's scary. You don't want to be the guy that Alex Jones hates the most because you have all of his psychos just coming in on you. But it did leave this gigantic vacuum where no one knew what was going to happen next. Like, we didn't know. Nobody knew. We were waiting around for instructions from this judge who did not really provide any. So then we were like, what even happens next? Like, we didn't want to give up on him, but we decided that we're going to keep going with it, in part because otherwise this would have just, again, he would have gotten away with it. At every step here, he's relying on us just walking away. To
me, looking at it externally, to be perfectly honest, my reaction was kind of like, well, why did they not wait until it was like done? But looking at it now, my understanding is that it was. And it was the way that the judge then suddenly put the kibosh on the auction that was tremendously unusual. Like, I'm assuming that you had counsel advising you that it was okay to go ahead and do the announcement at the point that you did it, right? Yeah, trustees never, literally never get overruled. It's just does not happen. They are handpicked by that judge. Now, I want to make it clear, a previous trustee got harassed out of doing that job by Alex Jones. Alex Jones harassed him out. Interesting. And then another thing that happened is we're going to get to this in a second, but then as it gets moved to state court, this goes on so long, a receiver gets put into place instead of a trustee. Right. But that receiver that they initially picked dies of old age. Huh. I swear to God. That's how many people were involved in this process. But the trustee, he doesn't, you don't override a trustee ever, really, because it's effectively just like throwing a wrench in a court system and inventing a new pathway for this kind of bastardization of the bankruptcy process. But this judge just didn't want to be the last guy to put down his signature saying, hand over your stuff. And the trustee, this is my understanding, not a lawyer here, but when you're talking about bankruptcy proceedings, a trustee is the person who, as implied by their title, holds the assets in a trust and is charged with executing on the distribution or liquidation of those assets as part of bankruptcy proceedings, right? That's what they're there for?
Yes. And I can't believe we have to talk about this because it's so, it's such minutia. The difference between a trustee and a receiver: a trustee has to maximize what he perceives as value to the estate.
Got it. Okay.
So if he views that our bid, which has, future earnings plus whatever we do with this stuff, plus Alex's inability to continue to hurt these families as more value, then he gets to pick that. A receiver doesn't have that responsibility. All the receiver has to do at a state level is do effectively what's best for the creditors in their eyes.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what is obviously executed by court order as well. So the way that this bankruptcy auction worked then was it was the trustee who chose what the winning bid was based on those calculations.
Yes. And he also, Alex accused, I don't actually know who he was accusing the trustee of colluding with, but I had talked to that guy once in my life. So I was like, wow, that's quite a thing. I was like, how does bankruptcy work? I was busy having a conversation with him. It was very stupid.
I like the idea that evaluating a deal is collusion. That's just really funny to me.
It was really, yeah. I mean, it was so stupid, but we now know, absent him winning that auction at that time, his whole game plan was to stall this out, move things around, do other things.
Right.
There was a time period, I don't want to get too deeply into this, but there was this shell company called PQPR that we believe was run by Alex Jones's dad that had cut a deal with the trustee to get money. So there was a time period in which Alex Jones was making money on all this.
Oh my God.
It was a ridiculous thing. But they had totally bastardized this process. But now we're in the delay phase where he's intentionally delaying stuff to kill Infowars.
And those delays just continue. In August 2025, Miguel Gamble, who is a state judge in the 495th Texas District Court, rules that Free Speech Systems, again, that the Infowars LLC, be turned over to a court-appointed receiver. So this was the detail that we were mentioning earlier, whereas before it had been held by a trustee whose job it was to maximize value out of this property, now it's just being placed in receivership, which means that they hold on to it and make sure that the contracts are executed.
Yes, exactly. So basically make sure that the value of this thing, which should be whatever you view value for Infowars to be, continues apace. So in Alex's case, it's keep broadcasting bullshit and sell supplements on the back of that, which he continued to do. But then simultaneously, he kept telling everyone, you guys don't go buy stuff at Infowars.com. Go to the real Alex Jones store. Because down the line, they're going to take all the stuff from this. Right. And he would say overtly, this goes directly to me. That's what he says. If you go to the real Alex Jones store, this goes directly to me. So over the next year or so, he starts intentionally devaluing Infowars and the Infowars store and all the stuff that they sell through that in an effort to make it so Infowars has no value anymore.
And which I'm sure was a shame for you, because I'm sure you were just planning on treating Infowars retail as a turnkey operation and just continuing to sell all of the protein pills, right?
Yeah, I'm sure we could. That's the thing. As a business, it's not a horrific business. I just don't think you want to do that. It's really easy to dupe people into saying that you have the best iodine in the world because it's Himalayan rock salt. Which is what he does.
It's actually my iodine that's the best, but you don't hear me bragging about it. That
was the thing, is that in the initial advertisement, because trustees have to advertise in newspapers that there is a bankruptcy auction.
Right.
It literally said it's a turnkey business.
I saw that. That's why I referenced it. It was like the turnkey e-commerce operation.
Yeah. And if you want to view it that way, absolutely. Unfortunately, you need a true soulless demon at the forefront of it, and you can't do that without Alex Jones.
Well, this is a question that I had actually. Are the customer lists part of the auction?
Yeah, we would get the email list and
oh wow,
all this other stuff. Especially the first time around, that was definitely the case. With the leasing deal, we'll probably just get access to the studio and the IP. But
let's get to that, shall we?
Sure.
Because in October 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court declines to hear Jones' appeal about that $1.4 billion judgment. And that means he no longer has recourse. He, at least in theory, has to pay that money.
Yep.
And then in April of 2026, Global Tetrahedron announces a new deal to take over Infowars because your people have been working with the receiver on a deal that will allow some of these assets to be temporarily licensed rather than fully transferred in terms of ownership, because it is not possible at this time to fully transfer ownership because of the various stays and injunctions that Alex has successfully filed, right?
Yes. Every time we would go to buy it, he would file for a thing called an emergency stay to make it so this receiver couldn't do anything with these assets, just to delay. So, for example, emergency stays usually last a few days or a few weeks. And there's been an emergency stay in the Texas Appeals Court since August of last year. So it's been 11 months since this emergency stay got filed. So we were waiting for the receiver to say to us, yeah, you can buy this, the stay's lifted. That never came. And then one day, weirdly enough, this was March 17th of this year, which I only remember because my girlfriend lost her primary election that day.
Right.
And I got a text about it and I was like, I'll deal with this in the morning. It's fine. But on March 17th, Alex Jones went on Tim Pool's podcast and he said, they're shutting us down next month. So it's over. And he was hammered drunk, just fucking cooked.
Unlike normally where he's completely sober.
Yeah. No, he was like, so you could like smell it through the fucking speakers on your iPhone. It was crazy. So I texted our lawyer and I was like, I know he says this all the time, but like, and I know that's a strategy, but is it, are they shutting it down? Because if they are, that's devaluing it to the point where we're not even bidding on anything anymore. Mm-hmm. He's holding a funeral for this brand. Right. Like we need to be able to step in and keep the value up. So Scott Kidder, who's our CFO, came up with this very smart idea. He was like, well, what if we go to them? If we can't buy it, like, why can't we lease it? Right.
Sure.
He's trying to kill this thing. He's saying it's over with. We're saying we'll keep the lights on. He's saying that he doesn't even make enough money from the InfoWarsStore.com anymore because he's moved everything over to a different website.
Right.
To even keep the lights on. And his game plan was to have everything turn off, have him not be able to pay rent through the receiver, and then buy everything back from his landlord because all of that stuff...
For pennies on the dollar, okay.
For pennies on the dollar. All of that stuff would become property of the landlord.
Right.
That was his plan. So we went to the receiver and we're like, we kind of understand what's going on here. We would like to keep this going. What is rent plus utilities, basically? Right. We want to keep this thing going.
And that number is $81,000 a month is my understanding, right?
His rent, which is extortionate, is $75,000 a month. I don't know why that is.
God.
It's in the woods in Texas. We don't know. We don't get it. Whatever. And then we estimated like between the electricity bill and the plumbing or whatever is another $6,000. So we didn't estimate that. The receiver did. So he was like, I guess, like, I have two jobs, right? Like, I have to do what's best for the estate, and I have to keep the value of this thing alive. So legally, I kind of got to do this. So we signed this deal with him, and we go public with it because Alex is going to find out about it. So we don't want him to like get out in front of it.
Sure. Because he is determined to sabotage the brand. Like he still at this point has access, and by this point I mean right now, still has access to the Infowars DNS, all of the other stuff to do with the brand, and he is making it his intention to sabotage the value of all of those assets to the fullest extent possible.
Yes, he literally holds a funeral for Infowars like on air. They start stripping things out of the building. All of that's illegal, by the way. Not the funeral part.
No, of course.
Illegal, but like,
I'm sure he's not paying his landlord or anything either at this point. Like,
of course. Like that's the whole point from here. So we announced this, and he loses his mind again for a second time. Obviously, he's like, "How can this happen?" I'm not.
Was this the one where he took his shirt off?
This is the one where he took his shirt off. He's like, "They're trying to get the shirt off my back." No, it was very fun. We didn't we didn't expect that to happen. Like pure comedy to come from him on that. We thought that was our job, but whatever. Good for him. I'm glad they did it.
It's nice to take your shirt off sometimes, you know?
Yeah. So then he, unbelievably, he files an appeal and he gets an emergency stay from an appeals court before the lower court judge is even allowed to hear our lease plan. So like we, first of all, don't even know how that happens. It's not how things go. An appeals court can't like jump in before someone even makes a ruling, but just the way it is.
Technically, there's nothing to appeal.
There's nothing to appeal.
If the order hasn't been made yet, yeah.
He also has no standing. He's not a part of free speech systems anymore. Right. It makes no sense. But the court says, okay, once again, our emergency stay from 11 months ago is still in effect. And by the way, you can no longer lease stuff for this. Like, everything's still in effect. So we view this as effectively at this time, which any reasonable person would do, to be like a pocket veto. Basically, like, stays don't, other than pressure from other judges, they don't actually have to get resolved. So this could go on forever. And that's a huge problem. That means we don't know why they're doing this, if they're afraid of him, if they like him, if they want to see the end of like the bankruptcy court system in real time. Like, we don't know why extra legal things are happening on his behalf, but they are. So that's when we decide, okay, we take a week after me being very sad and emo about it in the office. And I talked to Tim Heidecker because Tim's on board for this already. We hire him as creative director. I say, we're going to go for it anyway. We're going to do a big parody of this thing until they unlock this thing for us, until they unlock the studio. So that's what we did.
So at this point, you are moving from an offensive position because basically there were two false starts where you started to roll things out with full expectation that the process would happen as expected based on advice from counsel. And then all of a sudden something extremely unexpected, because this is the other thing, right? These are not just like, oh no, they forgot to cross the final T before sending out the announcement. It was like everything was done. Yeah. And then the hand of God himself intervened to stop these proceedings, is my understanding.
That's exactly right. They sort of invented new stall tactics to make it so things can't be handed over. And I don't think we'll ever know who exactly or what exactly is going on. But I do know that at the end of the day, Alex Jones has gone to the Supreme Court and lost, and has no outs to pay these people $1.35 billion. And he's paid them zero. And we who have no vested interest in this at all, have already paid these people money and want to continue for the rest of time. So we don't know the outcome in terms of like when we're able to open that studio. It may just rot there forever. But we want to be able to get that stuff out of there, sell it on their behalf, and also take over Infowars.com and shut off his fucking access to Twitter. Like, what we've realized also is that Alex Jones by himself is not that compelling, but Alex Jones through the Twitter algorithm using the Infowars name that is likely goosed by something, gets big numbers. And, we want him to be able to, I would say, let's see where democracy takes this. If he really is that strong of a voice by himself and isn't getting some help, let's see it.
So at this point, he still has the keys to the DNS, to Infowars.com, to all of those assets, even though he technically doesn't.
Right.
What needs to happen in order to execute either the licensing deal, the shorter term deal, or the long-term turnover of assets?
Sure. A stay could be lifted in Texas that either allows us to purchase or lease these assets. A stay is just keep everything in place. It's not a ruling. Right. It's not someone overturning something on appeal. It's not even getting an appeal. It's just leaving everything in place until they have considered on the merits of these things. And it's not even like a regular stay. It's an emergency one. All they have to do is lift that. That could be done with one signature tomorrow, any second. But at present, there's no reason for them to do it because we actually don't know why. So what we've done is we filed there's a writ of mandamus at the Texas Supreme Court level, which means basically we need the Texas Supreme Court to step in to deal with whatever's going on at the appeals court level to talk about the stay so we can do things at the basic court level. And that's all to just deal with this one much smaller judgment, this $50 million judgment, that at the end of the day, in terms of the handover of Infowars, is immaterial. Mm-hmm. He has to do this one way or another. It either happens 2 years from now in a Connecticut court, or it happens now in Texas. So at any moment, the stay can be lifted. At any moment, this appeals court could say the stay is lifted. The Texas Supreme Court could compel the appeals court to lift the stay. They could even ask the appeals court why they think they are allowed to overrule a ruling that has not even happened yet. Like, any of those things could happen, but we're just waiting. And instead of waiting with our hands like underneath our ass here, we're on offense.
So your hope is that by applying pressure to the situation, that it's going to accelerate the process in a way that otherwise they might just leave it there, because what you're essentially doing, based on this explanation, is you are executing a deal and moving forward on a deal that has been done.
Yeah.
I guess my question is there any potential liability exposure in taking a strategy like this? Or is it just the sort of thing where, like, what's the worst thing that could happen, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, Alice could get mad at us and, like, sue us for defamation or something, but that would be rich, wouldn't it? But in terms of, like, liability exposure, there's the receiver would have to sue us, and the receiver works on behalf of the families. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't think the families would want to sue us, considering they are, they love what we're doing.
And they would also have to demonstrate that you are acting in bad faith, which clearly, at least from my standpoint, is not the case.
We're the only people to pay these people. Yeah, exactly. Like that's not the case. And also, like I said over and over again, if this gets moved out of Texas court and there's some fuckery, Ken Paxton shit going on, like, okay, then we'll just do this all over again in Connecticut, and then we'll end up with Infowars. So, like, at the end of the day, these assets are the family's assets, and they get to do with them what they want to do. We're just trying to shine a light. And the reason we're on offense is because we want to make sure for certain that this gets done. They just picked a fight with the wrong group of people, I think. I've decided that this is important, that this specific tragedy is not allowed to happen over and over again. That if you lose a kid in a mass shooting, that a guy gets to completely get away with abusing the court system and never pay for profiting off the backs of lies about them. I don't want to see it happen. So we're shining a light on it. And also, like, this trustee has also sued him for moving around assets. So anytime a journalist would like to look into that, the fact that he has given all of his stuff to his dad, his son, and all of his employees, please do. We would love for you guys to check it out. That's a very important thing to do.
So this brings us to today. As of when I'm recording, it is Wednesday, July 15, and Real Infowars has been online at theonion.info for about 2 weeks now. I've watched some interviews with Tim Heidecker. He talks a bit about how just doing a straight genre parody of Alex Jones and his stuff, which is currently what the block is, that's only the game plan for the rest of the summer and into a little bit of the fall. After that, the idea is to pivot Infowars as being a new content vertical, not unlike what was done in the older days of Adult Swim, where it's finding new, exciting talent, comedians, and showcasing their work to new audiences.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like, there is a central thesis here that is Infowars' current catchphrase, which is "there's a war on for your mind," which is a great sentence. And we want to keep that going throughout this, because, like, right now we're in the information war. Like, that's what's going on. It's been going on for 10 years. And it's nice to be able to, like, purchase the land upon which it's being fought. But, like, on top of that, we want to, like, give up and coming comedians and people who just didn't have a chance these last few years. I think a lot of people assume it's just like, I don't know, if there's been strikes, there's been fires in Los Angeles, and all these things that have wiped out all the good infrastructure for comedy. And we replaced it with this, like, with slop, basically. Yeah. We replaced it with crowd work, TikToks, and roast specials financed by Jeff Bezos. These are high effort things. And we want to give people who are comedians the ability to make artful stuff that has to do with how the world works.
New media is an interesting landscape, too, because, as you mentioned, the material conditions regarding the industry right now are just about as in flux as they have ever been. I mean, we actually here on our show, we, as of this month, are a SAG-AFTRA podcast. We actually decided to go union for our show and have ourselves go union as talent. I am now a paid up member of SAG-AFTRA because I think that a lot of what this comes down to is a need to professionalize a lot of this, not just in the sense of, well, we have a job to do, but in the sense of all of the revenue streams and the way that we sort of rely on both institutions and our own work for how we make money is something that we are in the process of actively figuring out right now. And I guess this leads me to a question about the business side of things for Infowars specifically. My understanding is that this is essentially a sister brand now to The Onion, both under the auspices of Global Tetrahedron, right?
Yeah.
Is it operated as a fully separate business, or is it just a separate vertical under the umbrella?
It will be, we hope, by the time we purchase it. Like right now it is a straight parody. It's being operated, especially the Haggerty show is a pure Onion vehicle, right? Sure. It is just wholly written and shot in Chicago in a studio in Chicago. But over time we want to build it into its own separate world. Right. And I agree with you. I think previously, and there are a lot of people who still think like this, and that's okay. But previously the goal was if you're a comedian, you get 5 minutes on Jimmy Fallon and then you get a sitcom on NBC and then things just work out. Right. That pipeline is either dead or you don't want to be a part of it because whatever you create is not interesting. You're making Nate Bargatze style base comedy. So there's no Adult Swim. There's no thing to try to get to the top of. There's no somehow getting 30 Rock into NBC anymore. That's just not going to happen. We need to create that new pipeline. Hopefully down the line, that's what it is. And by the way, part of that pipeline will be creating, giving people the wings so they can fly away from us. We want to make comedians, give them a big break, get them onto the Infowars channels and things. And if they want to go tour on that character, if they want to go, sell a movie based on that, we want to give them the ability to do that. We're at the end of the day, the independent creator economy is going to win out because it's going to allow you to make the thing that you want to make. Otherwise, we're just going to be slaves to Netflix and Amazon Prime, and who the fuck wants that?
I mean, in a lot of ways, it sounds very similar to the stuff that I've heard from Sam over at Dropout when he talks about what they're trying to do there as well. It's obviously a bit of a different comedic focus in terms of the sensibility. They're more improv and sketch oriented, but kind of the same idea, which is the future of entertainment, in the future of comedic entertainment specifically, is not exclusive deals. It's not, purchasing, it's not developing and then owning the rights to an intellectual property. It's about cultivating talent and giving that talent the ability to, as you put it, sort of spread their wings and fly.
Yeah, and Tim understands that completely. I think that's a really important thing. Because imagine how horrible it would be if we're you're just doing Infowars now. You can't do On Cinema, you can't do Office Hours. You can't talk about all the stuff that you did all the time. You're just an Alex Jones character for the next year and a half. That'd be insane.
I mean, I think Greg Turkington would be very happy if that was the case. But
and Phil would actually have a great time too. But there's we want to create that environment where people can go and be themselves. And we talked to Sam actually before we got The Onion because he was in the same boat as us. Dropout used to be College Humor,
right?
And I used to work in a floor above him at the Daily Beast. We were in the IAC building and Barry Diller just gave up on College Humor. They were just fuck it. You can just basically have this right before the pandemic started. And he built this thing out of nothing. And we were how do you do this? How do you get something, wrest control of it and make it a big independent thing? And what we saw from him that we didn't have at The Onion is independent creators. He had people out there personally evangelizing for stuff. And that's just not The Onion. The Onion is not going to send characters out there to go and do stand-up sets throughout the country and things like that. That is a thing we can do with Infowars. We can roadshow this thing. We can send people out and do weird stuff. We might actually sell actual gold soon. There's this ridiculous shit going on in the background here. And
can I turn it into piss or not?
Well, I think I don't know the exact plan. Tim has a whole thing about sending test kits to see if your can be turned into gold, and then we do send them gold. It's a whole thing. But there's opportunities here to live outside of like the strict satirical world of the Onion, where we are one-to-one going after CNN or New York Times or something. Whereas we're going after grifters, and grifters do a lot of stuff. So that's what we want to be able to do, is create those characters. Like I say, if we're doing this right, it's like we're creating like the world's tiniest Marvel or the world's tiniest like WWE. We're creating little guys that we can independently send off into the world, and they can go, hopefully one of them will be The Rock.
And that, to the point, I guess, of countering the grifters.
Yeah,
that I feel is going to be a big piece of what Infowars is all about more broadly. It's like it's a counterpoint to the grift economy, and there is, of course, no grifter bigger than Alex Jones himself. Like, after he saw that he was going to lose control of Infowars, he immediately sabotaged the most valuable brand that he has ever been attached to, and as both you and Tim have stated, like, just doing a straight parody of him, that's going to have a limited shelf life. It's going to be funny for a while, but there needs to be a bigger picture approach. My question to you is, what do you think that Alex Jones represents narratively, and how do you counter that narrative meaningfully?
He's just the opposite, right? Like, he always tries to find, he is the Onion headline of Marilyn Manson going door to door trying to shock you, right? Like, what is the most inhumane reaction to a tragedy you can find? And like, he always finds the third angle. For Charlie Kirk recently, he's been saying that he's still alive.
Yes, I missed that.
Graham, he's been saying he's secretly running Turning Point USA in like a bunker.
Oh, that really is the third angle.
Yeah, it's the third angle. For Lindsey Graham, he said he was involved in a Ukrainian drone strike.
Okay.
He didn't even go the poisoning route. He just chose the third thing, right? And that's when the third angle is like send people to go after specific private citizens. That's when it gets dangerous and shitty. But for us, like, the third angle could be so funny, right? Like, it's every week it's really the goal is to just escalate it every single week, right? Why did Alex Jones pop like a balloon? Like, you will find out by the end of it, but like, it is initially it's that he ate too much Whataburger. Then it's just that he's been, targeted by the deep state. There's like a bunch of different ways you can go. To me, that's his best thing that he always did. And I've been saying this to Tim over and over again. What lives in that world that doesn't really live anywhere else as well as this is anticipation. It's what Donald Trump has been able to do. It says, like, 2 weeks from now, there's going to be an answer on the other side. And, whatever the current narrative is has to be wrong, but I'll tell you what the real thing is next. Alex Jones can't take a dub. No matter what, there's no dub he's ever been able to take. When Epstein came out, he was like, no, they're not. He's not just having sex with them. He's eating the kids. Like, he's eating kids. Like, there's just like, there has to be this next level. And that's what we're going to try to mimic, is like that. But what is the overtly funny version of that instead of the evil and weird one?
And to the point of evil and weird, there is something to me that's so compelling about Jones, because that third angle thing is often really funny too.
Yeah.
Like, Lindsey Graham died of a Ukrainian drone strike is so fucking funny. But then it's the dark underbelly of that is that he was subjecting these families to years and years of targeted ongoing harassment every fucking day of their lives, to the point that many of them had to move, had to go radio silent in terms of any sort of public persona or presence whatsoever. And so then there's the question of, how do you make these families whole to the extent that it is possible? Obviously, it is fundamentally incumbent on Alex Jones to do this, because he's the one who fucking did it in the first place. But part of the point of Infowars is also to grant some level of recompense to these families.
Yeah.
I know that you've said that the families fundamentally are not motivated by money. That is not the thing that they care about the most. But also winning some small measure of justice for them in a financial way, it sounds like, is an important part of it as well. However, you're going to be on the hook, assuming that this leasing deal goes through, for $81K a month.
Yeah.
You have so far made, at least according to your announcements, about $100,000 from merch sales that you can send along to them. Side question, is this something that you are able to do right now, or is it still like being held until the judgments work their way out or whatever?
It's in like escrow effectively, because they're the only class that all of these families are through this court case.
Okay, that's what I thought. But once those funds can be released from escrow, there's going to be, on some level, I imagine, a hope that you can continue to develop a revenue stream for these families that is going to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And that the business itself, Infowars, the brand, the content vertical, obviously needs to generate a profit to be sustainable. And then on top of that, you're also wanting to generate enough profit that you can kick some money back to the families. How do you do that?
Yeah, good question. But I think we have some pretty decent answers. First of all, the merch stuff has like way exceeded our expectations. People really want to wear an Infowars shirt or an Infowars elf shirt, which is secretly on our store. Like,
oh, the elf shirts are selling?
Yeah, don't tell people this. We have not promoted them, and in a couple days they sold 40, and they're fucking hideous. By the way,
I hate that fucking pervert. I fully agree with Infowars corporate that elf should not have seen the light of day, but I seem to be in the minority on this.
You don't even know what he did yet, and you can just sense it.
Oh yeah,
you just smell it.
He has a deeply evil energy to him. I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, look at that guy. What is going on? Those are not. Those pants have holes in them in the wrong places. Yeah, so like the merch stuff is flying off the shelves, and also, a big thing that we want to do is work with them in the future about whatever messaging they want to do around this. Like we're happy to do that, and we do hope it's this big successful thing they get to be a part of. A big thing that like Robbie Parker wants to do is like when we take over the studio, he wants to like read his book in it and like
cool.
Like from the in front of the actual desk. Like that's a big thing that he wants to do. We have like larger plans for getting them more money, other than just like selling his stuff, paying them for the IP, sending a cut of merch forever. But like we are kind of blown away by what's happened already. And another thing I want to make it clear is that like doing good stuff like this in a Reconstruction era, which I'm hoping we're about to get into, it's like really important to do, and like trying to figure out how to do it right, where we're like there are in a capitalistic society trying to find things that look like public works projects right now. Doing stuff like this is one of the ways of doing it, and we're going to have to keep doing that kind of thing. So we're learning as we go, and I want to stress something. Like I've read a bunch of crazy Alex Jones fan psychos. They're like, what are they doing? They're wasting $1 million in this, whatever. Like, it's been one of the best things we've ever done for a business. Would you rather be in the news for not being a piece of shit? Or would you rather give Facebook $1 million to advertise the Onion? Like, what would you rather do? It is good for your business to do good things and then hopefully make it a virtuous cycle over the course of time.
Are there plans for monetization beyond merch at this time? Or is it something that you're just kind of figuring out as you go along? Or what does that look like?
We think we'll probably start the equivalent of like a streaming service.
Okay.
What we've been kind of blown away by is the growth of like the streams in the social channel. We did a stream initially because Tim just wanted to get on the air immediately after that really bad ruling a couple months ago.
Right. I remember that.
And he made it like they got a studio in Frogtown in LA, and then they just shot something really quick and it went bananas. So then I don't think he was going to do an extended impression like for this long with like an arc until we did that. We realized it should be a stream. So like the stream is hopefully going to be a front porch into, and like we get to show off pilots and a bunch of new creators in these streams alongside Tim and alongside Onion stuff. And we get to build up those things, and hopefully you'll come over to a streaming service with all those, people and characters and stuff in them, or you'll go to a show that we put on, or buy some merch or something. That is the long-term game plan here. And we want to, like I said, we want to build a universe. Building a universe is, requires you to be a little bit everywhere.
But you've got a lot of potential runway available to you as well, it sounds like, because I'm assuming Jeff is very bought into this as well from a advancing capital perspective. And is the business itself, and I don't know if this is something you can answer or not, but I'm going to ask the question. Is the business of Infowars being subsidized out of the Onion, or is it considered its own bucket?
It will be considered its own bucket, but it is currently under the Onion's world because of like the only way you can support us right now legally or in any way is to go buy an Onion membership or to go buy a t-shirt or something.
I guess that's another thing is I've heard a lot of people who are wondering about, well, why is it that the only real, other than merch, the only real like monetized thing so far is the Onion itself, and wondering, well, is this all just a way to get people more into the Onion? And at the end of the day, they do sit under the same umbrella. Yeah. But there are certain things, it sounds like, that you are currently limited from being able to do by virtue of the brand status being a little bit in limbo. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we could probably go for it. But the fastest option to, first of all, helping us out and second of all, getting a good thing is to go support the Onion itself. When we do branch it out into its own world and streaming service and all that stuff, we'll be really deliberate about that.
Sure.
And like, it's going to need its own value proposition by itself. But like, there's, at present, like the Haggerty Show, which is our crown jewel, especially across like social media, is an Onion property, right? It's, it's a big part of what we do. The website that we made, is just littered with Onion gags. All those fake ads are Onion written. Jamie Brew, who is an OG Onion writer, is the head writer on Emergency. So it is all born out of Onion World stuff. And like we will, just as like Clickhole sort of like slowly teased itself out and O&N did the same thing, we will do the same thing here. It's an aircraft carrier, certainly right now.
You are building an aircraft carrier in real time while planes are landing and taking off. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And like, look, once the plane's full and once the quality assurance checks have been there, we will start charging people for that separately. But
sure,
right now the best way to support us is to subscribe to the Onion.
So I wanted now to just take a step back and sort of zoom out a little bit, because the bigger picture thing here that we've alluded to a little bit during this conversation is that the media landscape more broadly is fucked, and the information landscape more broadly is fucked.
Yeah.
You have a history as a disinformation reporter, and you've seen the way that the information environment has just gotten catastrophically worse over the past few years. Obviously, the rise of large language models, the sort of algorithmic bubble filter thing that happens, this in tandem with media acquisitions, the Warner Brothers Paramount merger, all of the news layoffs, the layoffs that are going on right now in other forms of media, like in gaming, all of that is setting up this information environment that is unfathomably bad.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, how do you see the entire enterprise, the Onion, Infowars, all of it, global tetrahedron as a whole?
Yeah.
What can you do to improve things? Because I feel like that is fundamentally something that you're hoping for, is to make a positive impact on the media environment. What are you hoping to fundamentally be able to do? And how do you break through the noise to get there?
I would say that we run the most fearless legacy adjacent, news adjacent thing there is. Like, we're the only company calling people pedophiles, man. Like, we are doing that.
Well, it's you and Alex Jones, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true. But we're calling pedophiles.
Right,
that's really the difference.
Right.
And like, we're just not, I'm not saying we're not afraid of everything. Like, everything is scary, but we have not cut a financial deal with the United States government, like a lot of news organizations. We have not clearly toned down our coverage. We have not, made backroom things to stay on Air Force One or whatever. We're still going as hard as possible. And we do that across party lines. We go as much against Hakeem Jeffries as we do Graham Plattner, as we do Gavin Newsom, as we do Donald Trump. So like, we are going to keep doing that. And then another thing is, a thing that we can do with Infowars is, I think a lot of people are like, well, why aren't you going after these motherfuckers? They're so stupid and they have too much power, but they don't know, the Alex Joneses and Joe Rogans of the world. It's because we really haven't had a vehicle to do it. And because the Onion sort of is above them, like the Onion proper kind of is above them. And this allows us to do that. So what we want to do is be able to do that. And I think like I want this to be a good business, and it is a good business, just to prove that you can run a good business being a good person. We have our company is 10x revenue since when we took over, and that's a sentence that I feel like a weird LinkedIn asshole for even saying out loud, right? What does it even mean, 10x revenue? But I was like, I need to say shit like that to convince other people in the news or news industry that like you can go Barry Weiss's way and tell everyone that you're speaking for America and lose all your viewers and hemorrhage everything. Or you can go the other way, which is actually do that, say hard things to say out loud that actually are cathartic and speak for American life, grow your audience substantially and make more money. One might make your life easier when you're going to something at Cannes or something on a yacht, but it will make your business worse. And we want to grow this business in a real way. And I think like people are going to have to learn how to do this. Like we're learning on the fly. Like I said, like, we're the aircraft carrier is taking off many different jets at many different times, but independent media is going to be the way forward here. Like I don't think you can salvage CBS at this point. I don't think you can salvage the Washington Post. These are just not salvageable places considering what they've done to the foundations. So we have to learn how to make money without accepting crypto dollars, without begging rich people. And, we're doing it the hard way, but we're doing it the right way and the sustainable way.
How does it feel for you personally now, having been basically grabbing this bull by the horns now for like 2 years, being stymied at so many different opportunities and yet still having the opportunity to do this thing?
It feels really great. It's so fun. Like Tim's whole thing is so fun. What he's done with the show is so fun. You can tell this most recent episode, he spends the second half of it trying not to break, and you can tell. And that's the best kind of comedy to me. That's just like, that is a guy who is a professional comedian who can't keep it together. That's when you know you're on the forefront of something. And there's no rules here. Like we're just allowing him to do exactly what he wants to do. That has just been wonderful. And like with all the bullshit over the last couple, there's also been like legal shit that was scary. Like the Anti-Weaponization Committee, Ed Martin, that works for Donald Trump, once sent a preserve your documents letter to one of the first responders at Sandy Hook during this whole thing as a way of intimidating the families. And, by extension, like we were like, oh, then we're clearly going to get bullshit from them. And there were some scary times there. And now it's nice to be on offense. It's nice to feel like the end goal of this thing, which is always just to make a really stupid, really funny thing that made fun of these people, is possible.
Is there anything else about this story, about your experience, that you feel like you haven't had the opportunity to share that you would like to?
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, I just personally, and the people around me are like really grown up during it. And we've seen, going headfirst into a friend of a fascist government and saying, I know you have a whole plan here, but you're just not going to get away with it at this time. I have this book here. It's actually called On Courage. It's by Julia Angwin. It's about the second chapter is about a satirical writer who is, jailed for 7 years from 150 years ago for making a composite character of a leader in Russia. And there's a grand tradition of this shit, of being the only people with power in the news as satirists. And a thing I keep telling my partner is like, I grew up being like this huge fan of like Muhammad Ali and like Andy Kaufman and all this stuff. And you see the end of it. You see the end of the stories and you're like, that guy is a hero. And that's how we got there. And you read the biographies and you kind of forget about the middle parts where it's just like the government really is coming after you and you have to adjust your lifestyle and your psyche and your brain to deal with, protected evil people. And what I'm here to say is, if there's anything to get out of it, is like, take the big risk. It may not work out. I don't know, but take the big risk. Keep fighting through it, because at the end you get Tim Heidecker arguing over a horse divorce on Infowars on YouTube. So that to me was worth it at the end of the day. And it's strengthened me as a person. And I really recommend people just fight while they can.
I think that's oftentimes where we come to at the end of episodes too. And we're talking, it's like, just fight for the thing that you want to fight for. Don't try to fight every battle because that's impossible.
Yeah.
There are only a handful of battles that you will truly be equipped for. And even then, they're going to be really tough. But that doesn't mean that they're not worth fighting.
Yeah, this was like exactly my niche. And the thing will hit you that's exactly your niche. And it doesn't have to be as like difficult as going after the world's biggest conspiracy theorist. And like, you don't have to do that. Like, it can be something much more your speed and more your style. But like, don't get thwarted. A big part of the story for me is just at every step, the bad guys thought they were going to get away with it. And I was just like, no, I just put my fucking foot in the door. You can put your foot in the door. And at the end of the day, people will realize what you've gone through and fight with you.
Well, Ben, thank you so much for your time today. Obviously, we have talked about both Infowars and The Onion. But hey, if folks want to go check that out, or check you out for that matter, what should they do?
Oh, go to theonion.info for Infowars. Go to theonion.com to see The Onion. And sign up for us across all of social media. We're at the Onion everywhere, or at Real Infowars everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, tune in on Wednesday for our 250th episode. We're going to be back with our regular bullshit at that time for an episode about a piece of media that is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, including my own, Undertale. Until then, we'll see you later. I'm the worst of all possible Joshes. Farewell.